types of sports with Schoode Tor. Football discussion on the internet.
Boy, we're gonna play. We're gonna start the show today, Tor, with a game. I know normally we don't play games here on both types of sports. This is a show that's about football and football discussion on the internet, both NFL regular season and off season. First of all, good to see you. Is that a Creedence Clearwater Revival shirt that you are rocking today?
It is one of my favorite bands, and a t-shirt that I'm happy to represent whenever I can.
Wow, they play guitars and stuff. Are you sure? You sure you're feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm feeling okay. They for some reason listening to some Creedence while the frogs are going makes me happy.
The frogs are going. Is that another word for? Is that a euphemism you've coined for masturbation?
No. That is just simply listening to the frogs in the summer when they're out by a lake or a pond, and some Creedence lends itself to be complimentary.
I thought you were getting the frogs going. Never mind. That's something else. The great and powerful Warren Sharp scheduled to join us today. Whether he does, that's anyone's guess. If he does, he's always great. One of my favorite guests to have back on my radio show, and regardless of whether or not you agree with his Lamar Jackson enthusiasms, one of the smarter football guys I think out there, and has grown himself a humongous following, just kind of his own volition. And he's got a book out, Tor. I know you were steamed up because we got an advanced copy. Well, it's out now, but he's got a book that he does each and every year where basically it's 600 pages of NFL prep. It's pretty goddamn impressive, and we got a digital copy to peruse, and man, is there a lot in there.
Yeah, if you're a dummy, there's a lot in there for you. If you're someone that considers themselves a student in the game, there's a lot in there for you. So it is a truly versatile tool to have in your football analyzation toolbox ahead of the season.
The Sharp Football Analysis 2024 Football Preview, I believe, is the official title. But that is not what the game is about today, Tor. The game is about this. I was recording the Chad Dukes show at my Chad Dukes show studio, where I had a couple of guys come in and host the show with me, and we finished up, and I looked down at my watch, and I was like, oh shit, I've got enough time to drive home. I can do the football show with Tor from my house, because we're going a little later today because Warren Sharp has a schedule, and we don't mind working around that. I call my wife ahead of time, and I say, I'm coming home. I'm going to be home, and you're going to be home, and I'm going to need to stream and not be interrupted for 1 hour. 1 hour. Keep in mind, we don't have children, and usually she spends her off day upstairs watching murder documentaries. I came home, and I came downstairs, and I found the Ethernet cable had been unplugged from my computer. Why? I don't know. And then the second I say, hey, I'm about to start, she threw a bunch of pots and pans down the stairs, and the whole house was shaking from the rafters. And I just start screaming, I understand that we're both adults, but it's very difficult for me to not take this as some sort of passive-aggressive attack on the fact that I just need 1 hour's worth of just being left alone in the base. It's not even like it affects anyone. I'm way down here. Down here. But I guess the game show that I'm playing, Tor, is there any chance that it was a coincidence, both of those things? Or is that, like everyone else in my life, them passive-aggressively lashing out at me because I'm such an asshole?
I have to jump on a grenade for Lady Dukes. I can't help it.
Sure.
I'm going to say not passive-aggressive in favor of her. But I do understand that sometimes when a presence is being made known, and at certain times it doesn't need to be, it can be inconvenient.
Sure.
Whether pots and pans, an extra loud cough from the room over.
And you live with a fellow streamer too. I mean, this is bullshit.
I've never heard somebody with louder cutlery ever in my life. I mean, it's a ceramic bowl that is on 50 decibels, and the forks. It's not simpatico with the utensils. It's driving me up a wall.
Boy. What's deader, Phil Donahue or our chat? Anyway, it is both types of sports. Thank you so much. Never watched one episode of that show. And the dude was in his 80s. Like, I don't think you should disrespect death, but I was surprised how many people were like pretending like they were Donahue fans. I don't. Was it a daytime talk show? I'm asking the wrong person. This had to be way before your time, right?
Yes, this is. I believe Loud Goat is the gentleman that would know all about this.
Yes. He was a legend. Yes. Yeah, I got no idea. All right, Fish. That's what I have to say. Boy, so much to get to today. Hopefully Warren Sharp comes on. We have a lot of quarterbacking news. Tor, are you at all surprised how quickly we got to Caleb Williams is Patrick Mahomes? Because I feel like we went from Drake May's a bust and he can't play to Caleb Williams as Patrick Mahomes in about 6 days. And I feel like everybody that is swept up are also the same yokel locals that are saying it's just the preseason. It ain't that big of a deal. Feels like we got fast-tracked pretty much. Now, I don't have any problem processing information as it comes. Like the people that are now standing for Justin Fields somehow saying that Caleb Williams is just doing things that Justin Fields did. Like that was a swerve that I didn't see on NFL Twitter coming. But I gotta feel like there's some kind of middle ground here where we can put these performances in perspective and still be realistic.
I would hope so. I'm really glad you mentioned the Justin Fields stuff. What is that hurt about? I don't understand. What is the hurt about? I don't see any Pittsburgh fans lamenting about Kenny Pickett on a different team or Pickett could have done this, Pickett could have done that. I am so I can't understand or fathom why Bears fans feel that white knighting for Justin Fields every single time Caleb Williams makes a pass is a hill that they feel like they should die on. It's so complex. Why would they even do it?
Portnoy was kind of the most famous person I see with the take. Haven't seen a Bears quarterback do that since the days of Justin Fields. Look, man, I think that I don't know how much you trust Chris Sims. I don't know how much you trust some of these guys that do it for a living, but enough of them are making the comparison already to Mahomes where I'm like, okay, there's a lot of smoke surrounding this. I'm guessing there's some fire underneath this wall. Backdraft style, which I just showed to my wife last night. She absolutely fucking loved it. If you haven't had the pleasure, Tor, tremendous fucking movie. Great fire movie. Fire being used as a fucking weapon and being sentient. It's like Twister, but except it's fire. And then every time the fire kills someone, they're like, it was the backdraft. And the name of the movie is Backdraft. Fantastic.
Oh, I'll pop for that.
You'll love it. De Niro, Kurt Russell, just fantastic film.
I saw a video today of De Niro jumping off a boat into the water, just 30 feet up. Yeah, just reckless abandon from the
Apparently
guy.
he jumped off X as well. A little account suspension over there. I saw that story break over the weekend. Yikes. Look, man, I think we all know that. So what are these? Are these people advocating that the Bears stuck with Justin Fields and didn't use this pick that the Carolina Panthers supplied them with to take the obvious best quarterback in the draft, or are they just being snarky because of the over-the-top praise that he's receiving already? I'm not sure what this is in response to.
I feel like it's, Justin Fields done so dirty in Chicago, and he was never given the proper chance, and he never had the weapons that they reloaded for Caleb Williams. You could say that the off-season push from Ryan Poles in the front office this last offseason and last season was something that the Bears haven't done in a long time, just with the volume, the amount of star power. So I can understand that argument. But Justin Fields had his opportunities to go in and win some games. He had some opportunities to go and show his competency as a quarterback that they could build around. The Bears made a decision that we can't build around this guy. It is not our system. What we have right now doesn't work, and we are going to move away from him as fast as we can, which I think is a smart move. If you are a team and you come to that, you come to that hard decision of saying this quarterback isn't the guy for us, do it quickly. Don't drag it out. Don't do any of the nonsense that the bad teams do. And Bears fans are just sticking up for Justin Fields because they thought he was going to be the new savior, and he wasn't.
I also would like to point out that if Justin Fields is currently in a quarterbacking competition with an injured, old, and arguably completely washed up Russell Wilson. And you would think that if he was Caleb Williams, well, then he probably would win that competition fairly easily and fairly quickly. He's having opportunities. Warren Sharp's supposed to be coming on the program later. This was a tweet he put out. Thoughts on Steelers starting quarterback. That was some awful football by both. There is no winner in the Steelers quarterback battle. The preseason will mercifully end and someone will start week 1. He'll probably get benched by October. There's a reason both quarterbacks were basically free. Sometimes you get what you pay for. This is particularly grim by Warren Sharp, but I do think that if you really do believe that, hey, Justin Fields was doing everything that Caleb Williams was, and you people are all just fucking, on some sort of Kool-Aid drinking bandwagon, well, then I don't understand. Then why isn't he blowing Russell Wilson out of the water in Latrobe and winning that position?
Where are the reports? Oh, it's becoming a breakaway. I saw a ball breakaway out of his hand and sail into row 2B into the end zone, leaving his receiver with a hospital ball. Fields through in his preseason game this past weekend.
That guy jumped out of the gym too. I think I saw that. He's on. I don't know. Now. All right, he's on early. Let me bring him on. We're talking about him, and he can come on the show and he can talk about himself. For God's sakes, the great and powerful, as they say, Mr. Warren Sharp joins us. Highly suggest you check out his Sharp Football Analysis 2024 football preview. It's the fastest way to get smart for the season. And if you don't understand the hip drop tackle, this man can help you, because I didn't understand the hip drop tackle penalty. Warren, first of all, let's start there. We're having the new kickoff rule and the hip drop tackle rule in the same. They already can't get the kickoff rule right in the preseason. How much hemming and hawing with the refs are we going to have to deal with for the first couple of weeks of this season?
Well, don't also forget, Chad, we have the new challenge rule where we get to take a break and they show the Jumbotron, and then they do it like tennis where they just miraculously, like the football shows up and it's either on the line or behind the line or in front of the line, and then everybody just oohs and ahs, and then that's it. We don't have the drama with the chain game quite as much, although I think they might still be involved in some capacity. I don't even know the full extent of it. We're going to see the refs a lot. But the funny thing is, there was a lot of, and I don't know where you guys fall on the hip drop tackle, but there was a lot of consternation from fans about how this is taking away football and going to ruin football. And yet you rarely see these types of tackles. When you see it, it is very dangerous. It can injure players. And that's what I hated about that tackle, and why I do think it's a good idea to try to get it out of the game, because just like the horse collar tackle, it injures players a lot at a much higher rate than any other type of tackling does. And it was actually becoming a skill that was being taught, a technique that was being taught to tackle in this manner, because it's easier to get the guy down from behind, but it was causing more injuries. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of it. And when we do, it'll be maybe sometimes it's a 15-yard penalty. Other times the guy's just going to get fined afterwards. I don't know how big of a deal that's going to be, because I haven't even seen one called in the preseason. The kickoffs, obviously, that's a big thing, but I just hope that we stop talking about the kickoffs so much once the season starts. Like every single time I turn on a preseason game, they're showing the landing zone, they're outlining it, the guys are discussing it like we've never heard of this before. If anybody's tuned into a game, we get it. They're kicking off a little different way. We don't have to, like week 2, week 3, be talking about the way that they're doing the kickoffs. I personally believe that we will end up seeing kickoffs on average being returned to around the 30-yard line anyways, and that most teams will eventually just decide to kick it into the end zone, let it touch back, and the ball stays at the 30 to prevent opponents from potentially returning a big one, getting it out to like the 35, 40-yard line. What we'll probably also see is a few teams with really good coaches, really creative offensive coordinators, and good blocking schemes with fast running backs get some good plays. Now you can actually have plays here, because you can get different styles of blocking. So you can get different blocking techniques used. So they'll call different plays. We'll see which ones end up working the best. And then the rest of the league is just going to copy those. So everybody's going to copy the style that the best teams are using on these types of plays. And then eventually the teams are just going to kick it into the end zone to avoid having the ball at the 35 or 40-yard line.
We were actually, right before you came on, we were just discussing this tweet. It's at Sharp Football on X. I'm sure most of you are already following, but the Caleb Williams hysteria is already it's the Patrick Mahomes comparisons are omnipresent at this point. But then there's this pushback where it's like, oh, this is nothing Justin Fields hasn't done. I have to feel like the rubber meets the road in the middle of it. But my argument was before you came on, if Justin Fields is this player and he is doing all the things that Caleb Williams is capable of, how is he not able to beat out a washed Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh right now? As you pointed out, they're having, they're producing 0 points with their first team offense up against second and third teamers at times. If Justin Fields is that guy, this would be his opportunity, would it not?
Yeah, it should be. It should be a slam dunk for him to take over, especially when he's playing in these games, right? Russ goes up against the better defenders at the start of the game, and Justin Fields comes in mop-up duty against the worst of the opponent in the third and fourth quarter, and is still struggling to have success. I also saw the comments that the Bears fans were making, and some of the more so the Justin Fields stands were making about Justin Fields, and well, that play that Caleb scored a touchdown on, Justin does that every single week. Okay, the difference is while they both might have similar rushing upside, which I actually think maybe Justin offers more rushing upside, while they both might be able to run around in the pocket and get positive yardage on plays like that, one of them can actually stand in the pocket and throw the ball down the field, whereas the other one cannot do that with any level of regularity or any level of consistent success, and he is Justin Fields. So that's why Caleb is there and Justin is in Pittsburgh. That's why Pittsburgh got Justin for a bag of potato chips, just like they got Russell Wilson for almost next to nothing. I don't know who is going to be the better quarterback. People act like I have a agenda against Justin Fields, but the issue that I have is there's nobody like that's a Russell Wilson stan at this point. Pretty much everybody hates Russell Wilson, but there's still a lot of people that think that Justin Fields is like, just needs a different team and he can thrive. And so they're really behind Justin Fields getting this job. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm putting the guy in there that's going to be, in my opinion, give us the best chance to win games. I don't know from the outside who that is. I haven't seen enough in the preseason to decidedly say this guy's better or that guy's better. But I do know that both guys tend to take sacks at a ridiculously high rate, especially late in the game. And I tweeted this out maybe a week or two ago about how both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson have two of the worst sack rates in the NFL in the fourth quarter of games, and how they play terrible in crunch time. And so Mike Tomlin's Steelers went, I believe it was 9-2 last year in one-score games, the best mark in the NFL. They have the best mark in the NFL in one-score games over the last 5 years, the best mark in the NFL. You are not going to have, if you're putting yourself in a position to be playing a lot of one-score games, and then you get quarterback play like that where you're taking a lot of sacks and you're sometimes turning the ball over as a result, you're not going to be able to win as many one-score games. So I don't think there's good reason for the mood to be sour in Pittsburgh because of who they're working with. But I just, I'm not against Justin Fields. I hope the best man wins and he plays great, but I just think we're going to be juggling these guys because neither of them is going to be very consistent at all in these games.
Warren, I watched the Giants-Texans preseason game this weekend, and the Texans looked strong, but what was more evident was Daniel Jones making the same mistakes that he was making in the first two seasons. Have we seen his ceiling at this point? Has the experiment finally come to its just conclusion of him being a mediocre quarterback, or do you think that there's some way that he turns it on and has a better season for Daniel Jones standards?
Well, Daniel Jones standards are pretty low, but the 2022 season, I believe, was the best Daniel Jones that we're going to get. The problem is the rest of the league saw that and saw the way that Brian Daboll was coaching him that year. And I don't think you're going to be able to do that again with Daniel Jones. What they were doing in 2022 when they made it to the playoffs and then won a playoff game, of course, they had great turnover luck. Of course, they won a lot of one-score games. So they had a lot of luck factors go their way as well. They weren't just like a great team. What they were good at is they were one of the best teams inside of the red zone, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they weren't that good outside of the red zone. But when they got down to the red zone, they were scoring, and they were scoring because Daboll was smart and realized the drawbacks and limitations of Daniel Jones. And instead of passing the ball at a high rate down inside of the red zone, they spread the field with their receivers to spread the defense out. And then they handed the ball off to their running backs, and they were running the ball a lot down inside of the red zone at a higher than average rate, and had a lot of success when they chose to run the football. The other thing over the other 80 yards of the field that they were doing with Daniel Jones is they weren't getting a lot of efficiency when he was passing the ball. He was bottom third of the NFL, if not bottom 20% of the NFL in his efficiency when he was passing the ball. It was with him running the football. It was designed pass plays where he would take off and use his legs and run the football. The positive that I saw out of the game, the best thing that I saw, is just that he looks healthy. So he's going to be able to run the football this upcoming season, which is a big part of increasing his floor. But you're not going to take away his performance under pressure. That was something that has plagued him for several years, and I wrote a lot about it in my book, is the fact that I believe now quarterbacks own more pressure than I once believed that they did. Before, 10, 15 years ago, we always said, well, this offensive line isn't great, so this quarterback's going to be on a lot of pressure to take sacks. This offensive line is really good, so this quarterback should look good this year because he's not going to get pressured that much or take very many sacks. That's not actually the case. There's been bad offensive lines in front of Patrick Mahomes, and he's looked just fine. And there's been good offensive lines in front of some bad quarterbacks, and they have not looked good. This O-line needs to improve, no doubt about it. But Daniel Jones invites too much pressure. He doesn't make enough good checks before the snap to understand where the defense might be coming in terms of blitzes or how they might be pressuring based upon film study so that he can anticipate and get rid of the ball before pressure arrives. And most of all, sacks are drive killers. I was alluding to that when I was talking about Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. You cannot take sacks in the NFL. And Daniel Jones, his mind goes blank when pressure comes at times. If you remember a few years ago, all he would do is fumble the ball in the pocket. Well, he didn't do that against the Houston Texans, but he almost took a safety, but thought, I'll make this better by throwing a pick six. His brain does not function when he's getting pressure. And if that doesn't change, which I don't know if it's possible to, the Giants' ceiling is severely going to be limited in terms of what Daniel Jones can bring to the table.
Of course, you can get the book that we have been talking about this entire time. You can go to sharpfootballanalysis.com. By the way, that's for gambling, that's for fantasy, that's for analysis, that's for everything, or it's pinned to the top of his Twitter at sharpfootball on X. The impact of a quarterback throwing a pass behind his back. I know it's the preseason, but sometimes we already feel like the Chiefs, they just turn it on and they're better than everybody. It certainly looked like that was the Ravens were melting down against them when they were a juggernaut the back half of last season. But I've been talking about this with Ryan O'Halloran from the Buffalo News since it happened when Buffalo made the decision to do business with the team that they can't get past and hand them the fastest player in the draft. And again, it's preseason, it's training camp, but Xavier Worthy is 7 yards behind the secondary every time I log on to X catching passes. I don't want to go crazy with the stupid flashy GIF stories that people can use to get clicks when you see something like a behind the back pass, but it certainly does say the level of comfort, the level of to even attempt that. I would assume most quarterbacks, if they tried it, risk being benched. Patrick Mahomes does it. It's completed. We move on. How much further ahead are the Chiefs this year than everybody else, in your opinion, Warren? Because it certainly seems like it's even more than last year.
Well, I actually view the ceiling as even higher than last year. Yes, to your point, because think about this. I'll throw this out there in this context, and just ask you this series of questions, rhetorical questions. I'll just keep moving on to the next one. But do we really think that the Chiefs next year are going to rank below average on early downs? Will they really score the 27th most points on early downs? So the 6th fewest points. Will they really rank dead last in air yards per attempt, averaging only 5.2, which was the lowest for any team since 2006? Will they really score the 5th fewest second half points of any team in the NFL? Will they really rank dead last in EPA per attempt on passes in the fourth quarter? Because I don't think they're going to do any of that. This offense is far more explosive, but they did every single one of those things that I just mentioned last year, and they still won the Super Bowl. And I think that this team is going to be substantially better in all of those areas. I think they're going to have the downfield passing game this year. Obviously, we got to get Marquise Brown healed up and ready to go out there. Maybe he misses the first week. I'm not sure. But This team has better weapons. I don't think Patrick Mahomes trusted them, hence why he was only averaging 5.2 air yards per attempt, the lowest of any football team since 2006. And they were still beating teams using that style. And oh, by the way, they played 6 straight games to close the year at a rest disadvantage. They were poor in those games from an ATS perspective, which is one of the reasons why I thought this team had a really good shot of running the table once they finally had even rest in the playoffs and could get there, especially ahead of the Super Bowl where they finally had a bye week. They're not going to have any of those rest situations this year. So the behind the back pass is kind of, I like the way that you described it, the icing on the cake. It's just a further example of how this team not only has the best quarterback in the NFL, but also has this confident swagger that allows them to do so much more than anybody else in terms of testing the limits of what this best quarterback in the NFL could do, right? Like you could take the best quarterback in the NFL and say, we don't need to do too much. We don't need to get too crazy here. We're going to be just fine because he's the best. Or you could take this guy like driving the fastest sports car out there and try to make every turn and corner everything perfectly and just take it to its full potential. And that's what they've been doing with Patrick Mahomes this year, in my opinion, that they weren't able to do last year. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I do want to mention before your next question, the book that you were talking about, I got a special coupon code. Anybody who's listening, you want to get the book for only $5. It's regularly $35. For only $5, just enter the code Dukes, DUKES, and you can get it for only $5. You can also, if you want the printed copy, if you're watching on YouTube,
I do.
I've got it right here. It's a 550 some odd pages. It's a ridiculous book. You can get this at Amazon if you want it, but it's a lot more expensive than $5. So if you want it for $5, I guarantee you, you're not going to find anything else that helps you get ready for the season as cheap as $5. And if you hate it and you don't think it's worth $5, find me on Twitter, shoot me a DM, I'll refund you.
Well, I tell you what, you don't mind engaging with people that don't agree with you on Twitter. I will give you that too. We're going to move some units. How long does that code stay active for, Warren? Just curious.
I'll get a week or two. You know, I haven't really thought about it too much, but I wanted to give your listeners something if they were interested before the season.
When are you going to do signed copies? I want a signed copy that I can wave around in people's faces at the bar this weekend.
Oh, you want to sign? Well, actually, like hit me up on Twitter. I'll see what I can do for you.
All right, sounds good. Go ahead, Tor. I'm sorry, I'm groveling.
Warren, can you rationalize in any way for me why Atlanta would not have Michael Penix Jr. play anymore this preseason? Because I heard the statement from Raheem Morris. I saw it's a fine coach statement, but in your opinion, why would they shut him down, saying that we've seen enough after half of a preseason game?
To me, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's a great opportunity to you're evaluating let's put aside evaluating your own second string quarterback, right? You want to see a little bit more of him, especially in his rookie season, get him under live fire, see what he's good at, see what he's not quite good at. Beyond even that, which is the most obvious thing, you're trying to evaluate the fifth and sixth wide receivers. You want to see which guys should make the team. You want a quarterback who's actually going to deliver as accurate a ball to him. And if you want to keep your starter safe and healthy on the bench, in Kirk Cousins, I understand that. But if you are trying to evaluate those other players around you, you need a quarterback who's going to be able to operate the offense as best as possible. And I think that if Penix is your number 2, then you should be letting your number 2 get some reps as opposed to saving them all for your number 3 or number 4 quarterbacks who are not going to get any playing time for you this upcoming season, barring a massive catastrophe of which your season is already lost at that point in time. And it's doing a disservice for these other guys who are trying to make the roster by having poorly communicated play calls. And unless you think Penix is at risk for hurting himself because he doesn't know adjustments and protections and that sort of thing, then I can't see a reason for you not doing that. But it certainly seemed like he was fine with his protections and adjustments. And if anything, you would want to give him a little bit more to allow him to get even better, to then go back and evaluate those reps on film afterwards. I don't understand the decision whatsoever. I'm not going to rationalize it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Nothing about that situation makes a lot of sense to me. And by the way, for those people that are curious, that knocks $29.99 off the book if you use that promo code. I just did it myself during that answer. Use the Dukes promo code. You just go to the website. It's Sharp Football Analysis. That's quite a discount right there. Check that out. I'm steamed up. I'm going to order another copy. All right. I got 2 questions. I don't want to keep you all afternoon, Warren. I appreciate your time. Let's start with Bo Nix. Sean Payton pretending like Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson have a chance to win this competition is cute. I see a lot of different opinions about him, and he's looked really good in his opportunities. They seem to score every time he's got the ball in his hands on offense, given, we can only judge him by what we're seeing him do on the field. But I know he has all those hours played that all these other guys don't, but we know about his issues too, as far as his mechanics and where he was drafted. Is there a reason for us to be warming on him right now simply because Peyton's got his hands in the dough and he's going to turn him into the quarterback that he wants to fit his system, Drew Brees 2.0, whatever you think he's going to become? How warm are you on Bo Nix right now?
Yeah, so there are some people out there who don't pay attention to the coach speak or listen to the interviews with Sean Payton, and all they're going to do is watch preseason football, and they see that Bo Nix is balling out and is performing really well, and they're going to be on him for that reason. I think I don't necessarily say that's the wrong reason to be on him or thinking a little bit more positively. It's certainly not a knock on him, but the reason to be on him, because he's going up against like second and third string defenses. Like they're playing their first team offense against a lot of backups from other teams. And so of course he's going to look good. He should look good. Even though he's a rookie, he's playing with his first team offense. But what I also love is another layer on top of that is the fact that Sean Payton has come out as saying, at his pro day, I saw 16 pass attempts, and I knew this was the guy for me. This was the guy that I wanted most in this entire draft. And whether or not he would rather take Caleb Williams if he had the number 1 overall pick, that's another discussion, I guess. But the fact that he is all in on Bo Nix is what makes me excited for Bo Nix's upside. And the fact that Bo Nix hasn't made any mistakes like that have destroyed all that goodwill this preseason, to me, makes me feel a little bit more optimistic about the situation for quarterback in the Denver Broncos. Because when you entered the season, like immediately after the draft, there were memes out there of the starting quarterback room or the quarterback room for the Denver Broncos, and Zach Wilson's out there and Bo Nix, and it does not look like a very compelling quarterback room. But if he is going to, we see it in Pittsburgh, right? In the preseason against some backups, like he only got 1 game. Russ only has started 1 game, so it's a small sample size, but he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look good. He struggles to throw the ball over the middle of the field. All the types of things that are staples of what Sean Payton wants out of his quarterback and what he got out of Drew Brees. Like Russ can't do that. So it made a lot of sense that offense wasn't very functional last season. And that offense last year in Denver, because of Russ's inability to throw the mid-range ball or to throw the ball over the middle of the field, became what we were calling at my website, Sharp Football Analysis, became the James Harden offense. It was all threes or layups. It was all short passes behind the line of scrimmage, or it was bombs down the field of 20 plus yards, for the threes. There was not very much in between. And Sean Payton's offense thrives a proficient, efficient, short passing offense, move the sticks, sprinkle in some deep passes and some short passes. And a lot of that was gone last year. So I'm excited to see what this offense ultimately will look like. You have to keep everything in perspective, though. I mean, I think Kenny Pickett was like brilliant last year in the preseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now he's a backup on the Philadelphia Eagles and looks terrible in the preseason this year. So everything needs to have a little bit of cold water put on it during the preseason, in my opinion. And this is no different, but I have some optimism there. They're probably not going to win a ton of games this year. I think their win total is only 5.5. I'm not necessarily going to bet the under there, but it's still going to be a team that's probably losing more games than they win this year.
Kept you too long. I know it's a busy time of the year for you. Last one, if you just want to spend 30 seconds on it. All the running backs that changed hands this offseason, I think Derrick Henry to the Ravens is the most salacious. Right behind him is probably Saquon, just because of the interdivisional stuff. But Josh Jacobs with a really good, fast Green Bay Packers offense. Aaron Jones going to a Vikings team that I think is going to be able to move the football. Then, of course, Joe Mixon with that Ferrari down in Houston. There's so many, Austin Eckler to Washington, whatever, the Baltimore guys out to Harbaugh in Los Angeles. Give me the back you think is going to have the biggest impact in their new home, in that new system.
Well, to me, it's like the easiest answer. I'm sorry. Saquon is a close 1B, but I have to go Derrick Henry simply because the scheme that they use in Baltimore is going to create more light boxes than he was facing in Tennessee. He did not have a very good O-line in Tennessee. The Ravens O-line is taking a step back this year, but the way that they scheme that offense is going to be better. Also, the way that they're going to use some of the read option with Lamar Jackson. Think about that mesh point where Lamar is standing next to Derrick Henry with the ball in Derrick Henry's belly. Defenses are going to have to respect and play that so much differently in Baltimore than they were ever able to do if they ran that type of play in Tennessee. And so that's going to help the upside of the rushing attack for the Baltimore Ravens and Derrick Henry specifically. And then the craziest thing to me is why it's going to help Derrick Henry's upside more is think about the juxtaposition at the goal line. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are tush pushing that day in and day out. Baltimore, they don't use Lamar Jackson to run the ball inside the 5-yard line hardly at all. You have to go down the list of how many times that they run the ball with Lamar down there, which seems obvious, but like Josh Allen's always running the football in. Jalen Hurts is always running the football in. These dual threat quarterbacks, they always run it in because it's such a good play to call down there. But in Baltimore, they don't. They hand the ball off a lot. And so I think for those reasons, Derrick Henry, as long as he can stay healthy, a lot of touchdowns and some good rushing upside. And his ability to run the football is also, in my opinion, going to play to Lamar Jackson's rushing ability. I think Lamar, he lost a bunch of weight this offseason as well. He might be able to set some, I bet let's just put it this way. I bet over 615.5 rushing yards for Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to exceed his rushing potential. Even if he misses like 3 or 4 games with injury, I think he's going over that number. So I hope he stays healthy all year long. The Baltimore Ravens take a step back. They don't win 13 games, but Derrick Henry has a great year, and Lamar Jackson runs the football a lot this season.
Fastest way to get smart for the 2024 football season is the Sharp Football Analysis 2024 football preview, available now on sharpfootballanalysis.com. Use the Dukes promo code, and it knocks $30 off the digital copy. Get that or order the physical copy on Amazon, wherever you find your literature. Warren, thank you so much for the time today, buddy. Great catching up with you.
Thanks for having me, boys. Enjoy the football season.
We certainly will, sir. Best in the business right there. Knows more than Tor and I, that's for certain. And nice of him to come back on the program. We're going to move some units. I guarantee you that. I'm going to post it in the supporter chat. The book's fantastic. I was reading the Titans section. He's not the biggest fan of their potential this year, but it's still great information. No shit, though, Tor. Helped me a lot with the hip drop tackle and how that's going to be called. It's one of the first parts of the book, so it's definitely worth your time.
Yeah, doing some good football reading. I find myself doing much more reading as we get closer and closer. Bought my first fantasy mag this weekend.
I have 3.
Just feels so good. I got the CBS Sports one, and all afternoon I was just yelling at the mock draft. I'm sure Breece Hall at 3. I'm sure.
Well, I was watching. Who the fuck was I watching? It was Matthew Berry on with some Jags, and they were talking about how the 5th pick in the draft is the best pick because you can take Breece Hall and still come back around. And if in a 12 team, I really wasn't following it all that much. Not that Matthew Berry doesn't know his shit, but I don't know.
I'm not picking Breece Hall. I'm not picking him this year. Someone else can have him. I have fun. I mean, he's very
how about
fast.
I'm picking 0 Jets? How about I'm not taking 1 Jet? Because Aaron Rodgers is great and he deserves all the respect as a football player. He's getting hurt by week 6. There's no chance it doesn't happen. By the way, Doug Houston should have saved this $10 super chat. He could have fucking had 2 copies of Warden Sharp's book. God damn. Somebody reminded me of your chiseling ass and how you went to World of Beer with a tuber and you ate an orange and ordered a glass of water and then didn't throw in for a tip. I was like, oh, God. I was thinking of that as I was sending you the digital copy of Warren's book. I'm like, Tor's probably got a big old boner. He doesn't have to pay for this.
It was a weird day. And the tube was asking me, that was a point in my life where I was still trying to be a little more responsible, and I was sick. So I didn't really want to start pounding beers because I have that disease where 1 becomes 5 pretty quickly. So I just wanted to eat an orange and have a water, but tube was in the area and putting the pressure on me.
You could have thrown a $5 on the table because you were in the space for a chunk of time. By the way, I don't call that a disease, Tor. I call that being responsible. Having 1 beer makes no sense. 0 sense.
Yeah, because I might as well get the effect. We might as well get there.
If you're going to have a beer, you might as well just realize the way the day is going to go. Thank you, Doug Houston, for the $10 super chat. Very kind of you, my friend. I believe you just ordered off a CommonwealthDragons.com as well. Man, isn't Warren great? The fucking guy knows everything, man.
Yeah, just talking to someone that has that depth of knowledge on any subject. It wasn't a situation where you feel like you need to give out easy questions. These are the questions I want answered. I want to have your opinion on it, and he's made a career out of giving his opinion, which is what everybody in the industry aims to do.
Yeah, we went on a tear with guests recently, so the least that you motherfuckers can do is follow us on X. It's both types sports, and of course subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. I wanted to ask you this, Tor. Did you see this story?
Will be arraigned in East Boston District Court this morning after causing a disturbance on board a flight from Logan to Ireland. 40-year-old Goster Cherilus of Wakefield, Mass, accused of urinating on another passenger shortly.
Yeah. You know, on the radio, we wouldn't be allowed to talk about this story. You're not allowed to say urinating on somebody. You can say urinating, but you can't say urinating on somebody.
Oh, because of the decorative language surrounding the act.
Yeah. I can say I'm going to take a dump. I can't say I'm going to take a dump on your face. That's the way radio works, by the way. That's good in 2024.
In East Boston District Court this morning after causing a disturbance on board a flight from Logan to Ireland.
I guess he wasn't raw dogging, huh, Tor?
No, he was
this
not.
This guy wasn't raw dogging the flight.
He was having some issues.
Goster Cherilus of Wakefield, Mass, accused of urinating on another passenger shortly after taking off Sunday morning. Delta flight was heading to Dublin, was forced to turn around.
Can you imagine if that dude turned around and started pissing on you? You know what you would do? You would get pissed on. Oh, Goster Cherilus is pissing on me. I guess I'm going to get pissed on today. Good Lord.
Just hitting the button. Hey,
I'm getting pissed on. He's a first-round pick.
Police say Cherilus became irate and very uncooperative as troopers escorted him from that airplane, took him into custody. Passengers aboard the canceled flights continued on to Dublin on a different plane. Cherilus, former Boston College football player, drafted in the NFL draft, the first round in 2008.
I mean, there's nothing you could do.
I think all the money that's being spent in America nowadays, you can argue about it's going to here, it shouldn't be going there. There needs to be some money pumped into the scientists to figure out what the hell goes on with people's brains when they enter an airplane.
And all about this, expand it to airports too, Tor, because it starts the second you get in that airport.
We don't know, similar to the ocean, we don't know enough. We don't know enough about how the brain shifts. It's kind of like the, like, you know how some people have the cilantro gene, where if you have cilantro, it makes it taste bad, whereas other people that don't have the gene, it tastes fine. There has to be a subsect of humanity where when we start getting into an airport or on high altitudes, something shifts chemically up there that turns the societal norms off. It turns rationality off. We don't know enough about the brain up in the air.
I think I know enough about the brain in this story to think this guy got a good mean drunk on before he got on the plane, like I like to do. I just don't know how you get to, all right, I'm piss fucking drunk. Now, how close are you to the edge, Tor, where if you've been day drinking all morning, you're probably stressed out because you're taking a transcontinental flight, and then you can't get into the bathroom for whatever reason. People are taking dumps. People are spending too much time in there. Yeah. I like to think I'm a long ways away from deciding that my only recourse left is to piss on the guy next to me, which is, I'm guessing, what he did. But I'm probably not as far away as I think, considering how stressed out I get around the airport.
That's why I raw dog it. I'm not drinking anything on the flight. I'm not putting myself in a position to be. And this is, I would say, the second craziest piss on a plane story that we've seen this year. Behind the gentleman who stood up right in the exit row and started pissing on the floor with the tiny nubber. Like that's what. It's a problem. Something is not going right on these planes, and getting the piss. Maybe it was that song, "I'm Getting Drunk on a Plane," that started making people think maybe I just need to be blackout drunk.
So you think when people heard I'm on a boat, they all just had to run out and be on a boat? Like, you think people are that easily influenced?
I think I'm that easily influenced.
You are a boob. I will give you that. This was something else I wanted to talk about, and no, it's not Mike Florio waving his hands. Oh, this is the one I wanted to show you. But it's these comments. Stephen Ross, of course, is the owner of the Dolphins, said that the Dolphins are Super Bowl contenders. Let me read you the quote so we don't take it out of context. Quote, right now we have a roster, and I think everybody has great expectations. But hey, it's the old injury bug. You got to make sure that doesn't happen like last year. I think without that, we stay healthy, and I certainly think I think we're certainly a contender for the Super Bowl. Quote, I want to win this year. I want to win next year as well, but you got to start early. And I think having those players and signing all them long-term contracts and knowing the nucleus of this team, that's what's important. They're all stars. Tyreek was just voted the #1 player in the league with Waddle and Tua, some of the most important young guys, retaining them. That's what you want to do. You want to retain as many of your draft choices that really pan out. That's the challenge in these times. Of course, Tyreek Hill was not a draft choice of this team, but they certainly were wise to invest in him. Couple of things, Tor. One is that is the owner reminding everybody, I just paid you motherfuckers an enormous amount of money, and this is what I expect, right? Like that's as much of a message, I think, to all the guys that got the bag in the offseason, because there was a couple for this Dolphins team. Here's the issue that I have with it, Tor, is the same issue I had with Robert Griffin III's father, the same issue I have with Brittany Mahomes, the same issue I had with Kurt Warner's wife, or whomever you think is related to a player that says something that then, because guess who got asked about this the same day? The head coach and guys in the locker room. Right. I don't want to do anything that makes the guys that are actually responsible for scoring the touchdowns and drawing up the game plan and putting in the 100 hours a week, I don't want to make their lives any more difficult from any of the bullshit that comes out of this mouth. And so if I'm Stephen Ross, well, I may believe that. I just vomit out some coach speak and say, we think we're talented enough to compete with anybody. We love our guys. We love our coach. We love our city. Like, you can say a lot of things about expectation without saying this, because now when they go out there and they lose a shitty game to the Titans in week 10, what do you think the headline is going to be? Just like it was with the Cowboys with "we're all in." Well, no, you're not all in. You're all out. You won't even pay your own fucking people. That's why if I have a problem with him saying something like this.
Everyone knows the Dolphins have as much talent as anybody else in the NFL. They have more speed than anyone. They have some exceptional players on defense as well as offense. But it's no secret that they're not going to win the Super Bowl. It's no secret that they're not. They're technically, I would give, in the land of technicalities, I would present them as a contender just on the on paper grades that I would give all of their players compared to every other team in the NFL under those same circumstances. But there's no tone of watch out for Miami this year. Everyone knows when the going gets tough and the tough is cold, Miami will shrivel up and then take the early exit, and they'll be back in Cancun or Miami or where they want to go in the offseason. And then it'll be another exciting offseason with Tyreek Hill doing backflips with the cameraman and all the fast and all the speed, and we're ready and reloaded, and Tua feels healthier and stronger than ever. Cool. That's great. They are going to be a fun team for the league, but they're not a legitimate contender by any means in my imagination.
All right, I want to show you this, and you know me, I like honesty. I don't think you don't have to be honest all the time, but sometimes, hey, everybody, why haven't I used this shot more often? My goodness gracious. Take a look at this schedule, Tor. If Stephen Ross was being honest with himself, wouldn't he come out and say, we've got a game in Cleveland on December 28th against Myles Garrett and those fucking monsters that play defense for Cleveland. We want to win that game. We want to go up to Ohio in December after Christmas. It's going to be snow. If it's not snow, the ground's going to be frozen. It's going to be horrible. Yeah. And we want to thump those motherfuckers that made the playoffs last year. And oh, by the way, we've got a game at Lambeau on Monday Night Football in November. We want to beat the Packers in Lambeau in November. Like, to me, you got to crawl before you can walk. And these motherfuckers haven't been to a Super Bowl in 40 years. And they haven't won a playoff game in what is it, like 24 years? I think is the number. Let's be realistic about where we set our goals before championship comes out of our mouths. Because trust and believe, when they win the championship, Stephen Ross is going to get handed it by whomever does that now. It used to be Terry Bradshaw. I don't know who does it now. He's going to hold that trophy. You'll get it. but you're a long way off. Beat the Jets in November, and then we'll talk about the Super Bowl.
Go up to Orchard Park in November, and then we'll see how that goes. Even though they do play the Bills kind of tight, but that's early on games where the Bills are acclimating to the hot weather in South Florida. It's different. It's football weather, and that's where real football is played. And maybe it's more fun and enjoyable when it's September and October, where it's a nice crisp. But when it gets real cold, that's when you know what your team is made of. That's when you know who wants to go out there and win, or who wants to just get back on the bus and get warmed up. And there's competitors, and the starters are always obviously getting warm. Your body temperature adjusts to the cold, but they are not a team that has proven in the last couple of years to be taken seriously at the end of the season against good teams in cold weather games. You go up against Minnesota in a dome, anywhere in a dome, I'll put them up against anybody. But there's too many obstacles for this team with an unproven track record in bad weather conditions for me to remotely buy in at them being a true playoff contender.
I think it's okay to be honest, and I think it's okay to say we want to win the Super Bowl, and I think it's fine for players to say, it's fine for people to say that. I think, though, there's better ways. We want to have a winning record inside our division. We want to have a winning record on the road this year. We want to have a winning record against teams with winning records, which is something they didn't have last year. I mean, there's just different ways where you could have phrased this and more deftly handled it, but he's a billionaire, and I'm sure he's used to saying whatever he wants. Sean Finneran became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Sean. And so did Jeffrey Krasinski. I think I said that correctly. Thank you so much to you too as well. And while we're at it, Tor, news that is not shocking to anyone, but noteworthy here locally where I still do the show and where you are from. It looks like that the foregone conclusion is taking place. The Commanders have named Jaden Daniels their starting quarterback. Head coach Dan Quinn announced that he would be taking offensive snaps when the Commanders travel to Tampa to face a team that a lot of people think is a sleeper in the NFC. Again, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have not said that I don't think that Marcus Mariota has been named the backup quarterback yet because he's been dinged up. But yeah, man, 12 for 15, 123 yards, 42-yard strike. Diami Brown off an audible. He rushed for a touchdown. He has been bare minimum exciting in preseason football. I like this. I don't necessarily – I understand what Sean Payton is doing in Denver, Tor, and Sean Payton knows more about football in his cuticle than any of us do in our whole bodies, but like pretending like Zach Wilson has a chance to win the starting quarterback position, I don't think that does anybody any good. Saying to Jaden Daniels, hey man, you know you're the future of this organization. You know that all of our hopes and dreams are pinned on you. Let's stop bullshitting. I think there's some value to that. I think there's some value to the way the Bears handled it from the jump with Caleb Williams. So I'm actually excited to see this before the end of the preseason.
I respect teams and coaches that will state the obvious because it doesn't leave mystery or drama around the team lingering. So if everyone knew, hey, Jaden Daniels is going to be the guy, let's make that announcement whenever everyone is ready to go. And after 2 weeks of preseason, that's when we want to announce it. Good. We're not going into week one with nonsense. And I think also they're seeing it. Okay, we're going Tampa. It'll be a good challenge for the rookie quarterback to go up against a good defense that's well coached, but a good winnable game. A good team, but a winnable game. So we're giving him the keys. Let's see how far he can drive. It'll be a fun game, I think.
Well, every game in the NFL is winnable, Tor, but they're not going to be favored. I would have to assume Tampa is going to probably be giving 6 points. And also it's going to be hot as shit in Tampa in early September. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been down to Florida for an early season NFL game. I have. You're like, I can't fucking believe they're walking out of the tunnel in those pads, much less playing football. I mean, I know you have some experience playing football in hot weather, but Jesus Christ, the sun just beating down on those big stadiums, especially in Tampa, which is half swamp anyway.
I recall the Gigantor family being subjected to a bit of ridicule for a Florida Keys vacation in August down there for some fishing and heavy sunburns.
You guys are idiots. I mean, I like you. I respect your family quite a bit, but you're not the sharpest knives in the drawer. You're the cheapest. And I think that's when the vacation was booked instead of February, where you like to escape to the Florida Keys, you boobs. So you don't respect the Tampa all that much this year, it sounds like.
They're always so... They're just dark horse team. They win games that they shouldn't win, and they're unpredictable because Baker has now become He's the Tampa quarterback. He's settled. I feel like he's finally settled in.
Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't mean Baker is Heisman Trophy winner Baker Mayfield anymore. He's still Baker Mayfield. That'll throw a confusing interception now and then.
Maybe, but I'd rather pay Baker Mayfield what they paid him this offseason than pay Trevor Lawrence or Tua Tagovailoa what they paid him this offseason. Because I don't want to say they're hedging their bets, but it's acknowledging you don't get Jared Goff money just because Jared Goff got Jared Goff money. Like, I like that. And Tampa, look, man, they're pretty consistent towards the back half. They did all their losing early. Jaden Daniels is exciting as shit. All right, so real quick, we got to wrap up. But what is a successful year for the Commanders now they've named him the starter? I don't even want to talk record, except I think they got to be close to 500. I think if you're in games, even if you end with a losing record and you're competitive and he's showing flashes and, he's dotting up Terry McLaurin and all those weapons that they have, I think it's very easy now. The basement of expectation, it's pretty easy for Jaden Daniels to go out there and have what most Commanders fans would consider to be a successful rookie campaign.
I would say a true split within the division would be a successful season for him.
Okay.
Not, however you want to chop it up. If that means beating the Giants twice, which they hate doing for some reason, then beat the Giants twice. Get one against Philly, get one against Dallas. However you want to do it, go 3-3 in the division, and that makes you respectable for the next year. That's all I would want to see from them. Other teams are other teams. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But those three jerk off teams in New York and Philly and Dallas, you can't be 2-4, 1-5 against them, or else that's same old skins. Can't get out of their own way. Go 3-3, and it's a success for me.
They don't play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving this year, do they? Who is that? That's Giants. I think that's Giants and. Yeah, Thanksgiving games are Bears, Lions, which, by the way, what a fucking banger. Think about 5 years ago watching the Bears and the Lions on Thanksgiving. You just want to wrap a belt around your neck, and now it's the greatest game of the season. Giants, Cowboys, and the Dolphins, Packers are the late game. Late game's always pretty exciting.
Yeah.
How about this, Tor? The Cowboys play the Commanders November 24th at FedEx Field. If Jaden Daniels beats the Cowboys, the season is a success. If he beats the Cowboys that game at home in front of all of those fucking Cowboys fans, you still got to look decent, throw some nice touchdowns, but you do some symbolic gestures like that. Like you said, we beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. We beat the whoever. Like it's been a lot of garbage losses to these divisional opponents, knocking us from the postseason, eliminating us from wild card in week 14. You're right. There's some symbolic gestures will go a long way for that kid.
There'll be some teams that, go 1-5 in conference and then still have a winning record. That means less to me than a team that wins more than they lose in their own division. And then because it means something to the fans, it means something to the team that is more powerful symbolically than going up and beating up a bunch of skell teams. When you're dealt the weakest schedule in the league. Congratulations. You still didn't instill a bunch of faith in me because you can't beat the rivals. If you can't do that, then you're never going to win over the fan base.
Our live numbers here have been climbing since we got on. So if you missed the first portion of the show, I'll leave this up on YouTube. Go back and watch Warren Sharp. You can also get his new book about the season for only $5. Use the Dukes promo code on his website. For those of you that are listening on iTunes and Spotify, Tor's good enough to put this episode up each and every week. Join us on YouTube. It's fun to watch the show live. There is the video component. Tor is wearing a Creedence Clearwater Revival shirt. The light is pouring in from the beat-off shades. There's a lot to like. YouTube.com/Chad Dukes Show. Turn on your notifications and make sure you don't miss us whenever we go live. All right. I have to say, Tor, I love the preseason game on every night. I feel like every night of the week I turn it on and there's like a bullshit preseason game on with a couple of guys that I care about making the team.
It's so nice. It's the best. And it's just, we're creeping closer. We have some actual college football this week, which is going to fully start satiating the palate of football coming back. But nothing is like that first week. Nothing's like that first Thursday night kickoff game.
17 days. That's it. God. We'll be out at Monk's Barbecue watching that live. Jay Gruden will be our guest. Come on out for that. That'll be a great time. All right, Tor, good show. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you to Warren Sharp. And for all of you in the audience listening, always remember to go long. Real long.
Hey, what do you got? Nerf Turbo Football. Yeah, what's it do? Go long. Real long.
Nice toss. Nerve turbo football. You don't throw it,